Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Brandon, and I am 31 years old. I'm still trying to process what happened a few days ago. My mind keeps trying to convince me it was some strange fever dream, but it was real, and it was spectacular in the worst possible way. I have told parts of this story to friends, to my mother, and to my therapist, and every time I say it out loud, it becomes a little more real and a little more unbelievable at the same time. For context, I had been with my girlfriend, Alicia, who is 29 years old, for 2 years. We met at a brewery in Houston during a friend's birthday gathering. She was standing near the food table, arguing with someone about which novel had the better ending, and I joined in the conversation. We ended up talking for most of the night, exchanging numbers before we left. We hit off quickly. We moved in together about 6 months ago into my apartment in a mid-sized city outside Dallas. Alicia works in marketing and earns about $65,000 a year. I am a software engineer and earn around $140,000 a year, plus bonuses and some equity. We split rent proportionally based on our incomes. Everything seemed fair and normal. At least I thought so. Alicia had this book club that met every other Wednesday. She had been attending long before we met. I never questioned it. In fact, I encouraged it. I thought it was healthy for her to have something that was hers, a regular social circle that did not revolve around me. They met at different members' houses, small apartments, townhouses, occasionally a rented room at a community center. Sometimes they would grab drinks afterward at a lounge downtown. Alicia would come home a little tipsy, happy, and chatty, telling me bits and pieces about whatever novel they were reading. I would smile, ask a few questions, and then go back to my own hobbies. I believed in trusting your partner. On a Tuesday afternoon, I was working from home at my desk, near the living room window, deep in code, headphones halfway on, half listening to lo-fi music. My phone buzzed on the table. I glanced down at it and saw a group chat notification. The group name was Book Club Besties. I thought it was a cute name, but I had never been in this chat before. I frowned, unlocked my phone, and tapped the notification. The very first message I saw made my stomach tighten. It said, "Okay, ladies, updated spreadsheet is live. Do not forget to rate this month's metrics." I sat there for a second, confused but curious. I scrolled up a bit, and there was a link to a Google Sheets document. The file was titled Investment Portfolio Analysis, which sounded boring and professional, like someone's work project. I tapped on it, expecting maybe some financial planning thing they were sharing for themselves. It was not about stocks or bonds. It was about us, the boyfriends. There were 6 columns labeled: name, occupation, estimated annual income, assets and property, long-term potential, overall rating 1 through 10. My eyes moved down the rows until I saw my name. Alicia's entry for me read, Brandon, software engineer, 140K base plus equity, drives 2021 Audi, has 401k but no property yet, 8.5 out of 10. Good earner but too cautious with money. Needs push toward home ownership for maximum return on investment. That phrase, return on investment, hit me like a punch. I stared at my phone for what felt like a full minute. The room suddenly too quiet. The other entries were just as detailed and clinical. One guy, Leon, a dentist, was listed as 7 out of 10 dentist with good income, but family money complications. Another guy, Marvin, a teacher, had 6 out of 10, noble career, but income ceiling too low for goals. Another man, Tyrone, was described as a podcast dreamer with unstable income. They had written notes, pros and cons, and long-term prospects as if we were mutual funds. While I was still processing that, the group chat started to light up with new messages. Tanika, the friend who worked in finance, wrote, "Updated mine for Leon. Added the vacation property, his parents' own. Thinking engagement by the holidays." Alicia replied, "Smart. Lock it down before he realizes his value." Then she added, laughing out loud. Courtney wrote, "Meanwhile, mine keeps talking about experiences over possessions. Like, I need a house, not another hiking story." Then Felicia chimed in, "At least yours is income. Mine is trying to find himself with his podcast. I'm giving it 6 more months." Alicia replied to Felicia, "Cut your losses, girl. You are 28, not 22. Tanika followed up with, speaking of cutting losses, whose boyfriend is at the bottom of the list? Kiana answered, mine. Teacher boy is sweet, but I'm not doing this forever. Already swiping on Hinge for upgrades. My chest tightened. They were literally discussing us like they were recruiters talking about job applicants. Every line reduced real people and real relationships to salaries, assets, and strategic timelines. More notifications continue to roll in. Alicia wrote, had the money talk with Brandon again. He is so strange about investing together. Like, I'm trying to help us build wealth. My jaw clenched. We had never had a direct conversation about investing together as a couple. She had pushed me to think about buying property, sure, but she always framed it as, we should think about our future, or would it not be nice to have our own place? She never said, I rated your financial value in a spreadsheet with my friends, and you need to improve your return on investment. Courtney then wrote, men are so ignorant about this stuff. They do not see we're trying to secure both our futures. Alicia replied, exactly. Brandon thinks I am with him for love. I do love him, but I also love financial security. I read that line 3 times. My hand started to shake, not out of full anger yet, but out of raw disbelief. It felt like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion, except I was one of the passengers and had just realized the tracks ahead were already broken. The chat moved on to logistics, including an upcoming book club night, which apparently was going to be wine night and relationship strategy session. They planned to strategize fourth quarter relationship goals and compare notes on pushing for commitments. It was presented as a kind of coordinated effort to steer us toward proposals, property purchases, joint accounts, and more, all framed as securing their futures. The word love appeared occasionally, but always paired with references to stability, timelines, and money. Then I saw something in the group info that made everything click into place. At the top of the chat screen, it said there were 7 members. I counted the icons. 6 women and 1 profile picture of me. I realized someone had accidentally added me. Probably Kiana, who had been updating the spreadsheet, grabbed the wrong Brandon contact or tapped my name by mistake. That is the only reason I was seeing any of this. I sat back in my chair and took a slow breath. I had 2 choices. 1, I could leave the chat silently, pretend I had never seen it, and confront Alicia privately when she got home. 2, I could do something else, something reckless and absolute. I have always been the cautious one. Careful with money, careful with decisions, careful not to hurt people. But in that moment, something in me broke. I decided to stop being cautious for once. I clicked on the group info and took note of all 6 names: Alicia, Tanika, Courtney, Felicia, Kiana, and Charisse. Then I picked up Alicia's phone from the side table. Yes, I know her passcode. She knows mine, and cross-referenced the names on her Instagram. I found 5 of the 6 boyfriends easily. They were all tagged in different couple photos, birthday posts, anniversary pictures, and vacation shots. Marvin the teacher, Leon the dentist, Tyrone the podcaster, another guy named DeAndre who worked in sales. A 5th guy named Jamal would have been banned by the list, so I will call him Terrell, who was a nurse. The 6th boyfriend I could not identify right away, so I focused on the ones I had. I spent close to an hour crafting the message that I was going to send into that group chat. I wanted to be calm, direct, and undeniable. No insults, just clarity. I typed, deleted, typed again, and rephrased sentences until it sounded exactly the way I wanted. Finally, I wrote, "Hey, book club, thank you for adding me. I really appreciate the transparency. For your information, I can see everything you have posted. The spreadsheet is particularly impressive. All of you put a lot of effort into those financial evaluations. Since we are clearly focused on transparency, I have tagged all the other investments in your portfolio. I thought they would want to see their ratings too." Postscript: I was actually looking at houses, but not anymore. Not with you, Alicia. Before sending that message, I took screenshots of everything. The spreadsheet with my entry, the comments about cutting losses, the line where Alicia said she loved me, but also loved financial security, the notes about fourth quarter relationship planning. Then, back in the group chat, I pasted my message, added tags for the boyfriends I'd found on Instagram, and sent it. The moment I hit send, a wave of adrenaline surged through me, so intensely that I had to stand up and pace the room. After that, I went to each boyfriend's profile one by one and sent them a private message. I wrote, "Hello, we have never met, but I believe you should see this. Your girlfriend has been rating you in a spreadsheet with her friends. You are in a group chat called Book Club Besties. Here are screenshots. I wish you well." I attached the relevant images, their row in the spreadsheet if I could find it, plus the sections of the chat that referenced them. I did not add commentary. I did not tell them what to do. I simply handed them the truth. Once I had sent all of that, I left the group chat. Immediately, my phone began to ring. Alicia was calling. I watched her name flash across the screen and let it go to voicemail. She called again. I declined. Text messages poured in. "Oh my goodness, please delete that. We need to talk. Brandon, please." I did not respond. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, breathing slowly as if I had just run a sprint. My heart was pounding, but there was also an odd sense of relief. The truth was no longer only in my head. Within an hour, I could already see the chaos beginning on social media. Leon posted a screenshot of the spreadsheet to his story with the caption, "Ladies, is your partner an investment or a person?" Asking seriously. Marvin posted, "Just found out I'm a 6 out of 10 because I'm a teacher. Thank you for the feedback." Apparently, comments started rolling under those posts from their friends, coworkers, and relatives. Alicia, in response, set her profiles to private. When Alicia came home about an hour later, her face looked like she had been crying the whole drive. Mascara streaked her cheeks. Her hair was pulled back in a hasty bun. She tried the door and rattled the handle. I had already changed the lock earlier that afternoon. I am the only person on the lease. She had simply been staying there with my permission. She began pounding on the door and calling my name. "Brandon, open the door. Please, you do not understand. It was just girl talk. Please." I waited a moment, then opened the door with the chain still on. She tried to push it, but it stopped at the chain. She froze, eyes red. I said, "Girl talk includes rating me like cattle and discussing return on investment." Alicia shook her head frantically. "It was not like that. You're taking it out of context." I asked, "What context makes I love you, but I also love financial security better?" She started crying harder. "I do love you. The chat was just, it is complicated. We were joking around sometimes." I said, "You had a literal spreadsheet." She sniffed and wiped her face. "That was Tanika's idea. She works in finance. She turns everything into a spreadsheet. We thought it was funny, a way to vent." I replied, "And the part where you wrote that I am too cautious and need to be pushed toward home ownership for maximum return on investment?" Alicia was silent. I heard people walking in the hallway behind her. Finally, she said, "Can we please talk inside?" I shook my head. "No, your things are in boxes by the door. You can pick them up tomorrow." Alicia put her hand on the door frame. "Where am I supposed to go?" I said, "Maybe ask your book club for investment advice." Her expression changed from pleading to anger. She tried a softer tone again. "Brandon, baby, I messed up. I know I did, but this is fixable. What we have is real. That chat was just stupid conversations with friends. Everyone does it." I responded, "Not like this. Not everyone does this." At that moment, her phone began to ring in her hand. She glanced at it. "It is Tanika. Everyone is panicking." Alicia looked back at me and said, "You had no right to expose those private conversations." And there it was, the real core of it. I said, "I had no right. You had no right to rate me in a spreadsheet and discuss my financial value like I am property with your friends." I did not approve that either. She said, "We were not hurting anyone. It was private." I replied, "Then keep it private. Do not accidentally add your boyfriend to the group chat where you reduce him to numbers." She actually stomped her foot once like an angry child. "This is so unfair. You are ruining everything." I raised an eyebrow. "I am ruining it. You literally wrote that I was an 8.5 with room for improvement." Alicia said, "Because you are great. 8.5 is good." I stared at her. "You are seriously making the argument that rating me is a compliment?" She crossed her arms. "I am saying you are overreacting. Yes, maybe the spreadsheet was strange, but all girlfriends talk about their boyfriends. We just organized it better." A neighbor's door opened across the hall. An older man in his 60s stepped out, frowning. "You two need to keep it down. Some of us are trying to sleep." Alicia turned to him, desperate. "I'm sorry. My boyfriend is having a meltdown because I cut in because I found out she rated me in a spreadsheet with her friends and discussed my financial value like I am an investment portfolio. The neighbor blinked, looked at her, then at me. He shook his head slightly and said to Alicia, "That is harsh." She opened her mouth as if to argue, then closed it, grabbed her phone, and stepped back from the door. "I will get my things tomorrow. With witnesses," she said. I nodded. "That is fine." I closed the door and slid the chain back into place. I heard her footsteps retreat down the hallway. Inside, the apartment looked oddly empty already. I had spent an hour earlier gathering her clothes, shoes, books, and toiletries into neat boxes. I did not throw anything. I did not break anything. I just packed her life in a cardboard and set it near the door. The next afternoon, Alicia arrived with Tanika and Felicia. All three were quiet when I opened the door. Neither of her friends would meet my eyes. Their faces were pale and tight, the way people look when they know they have done something wrong, but are still too proud to fully admit it. From their demeanor, I guess their boyfriends had broken up with them too. Tanika tried to take the lead. "You know you violated everyone's privacy, right?" she said in a cool, clipped tone. "That is actually illegal." I shook my head. "No, it is not. I was added to a group chat. I saw what you voluntarily shared with me. I shared that information with the people who were directly involved. There is no hacking here. You should not throw around legal terms that you do not understand." Tanika opened her mouth, then closed it, clearly unsure how to respond. Alicia moved past them and began looking through the boxes. "Did you go through everything?" she asked without turning around. "No," I said. "I packed it all respectfully. Take it and go." Felicia muttered under her breath. "This is so dramatic. They are acting like we committed crimes." I looked at her and said, "You literally rated human beings you claim to love on their financial value and discussed upgrading to better options. One of you called your boyfriend a 6 out of 10 because he is a teacher and does not earn enough money for your long-term goals." Felicia straightened, defensive. "He knew I wanted financial stability. I was upfront about that." I replied, "Were you upfront about the spreadsheet?" The hallway went quiet. Tanika shifted, Alicia kept packing, and Felicia stared at the floor. No one answered. They finished hauling Alicia's things out in about 20 minutes. The atmosphere felt heavy, like everyone was breathing in smoke. Before leaving, Alicia turned back to me in the doorway. "You are going to regret this," she said. "What we had was real." I replied, "What we had was you calculating whether I was worth your time based on my salary and spending patterns. That is not what I call real." She tried to say, "That is not," but she stopped, shook her head, and walked down the hall. After they left, I sat at the dining table and opened Instagram again. The chaos had expanded. Marvin, the teacher, posted a long statement about knowing your worth beyond your paycheck and how love should not be a performance review. It started to spread, getting shared by friends and strangers. Leon changed his relationship status to single and wrote, "Apparently, family money complications make you a 7 out of 10. Another boyfriend posted the full spreadsheet, with the women's names blurred but all the descriptions visible. The comment sections were full of strangers criticizing the behavior and making jokes, but underneath the humor, there was real anger. Alicia set everything to private, but her friends did not all do the same. Tanika tried to spin the narrative on her story. Friendly reminder that everyone is entitled to private conversations with friends. Violating that trust is manipulative behavior. People flooded the comments with responses like, "This is not just private conversation. This is calculated dehumanization. And there's a difference between venting and rating people like assets." A lot of people wrote long messages telling them to take accountability instead of playing victim. Later that evening, my phone rang again. I looked at the caller ID and felt a twinge of dread. It was Alicia's mother, Ms. James. She had always been kind to me, asking about my work, sending food around the holidays, inviting me to family cookouts in Atlanta when they went to visit relatives. I answered, expecting anger. "Hello," I said. She greeted me warmly. "Honey, I just heard what happened." I said, "Yes, I'm sorry. I know this is messy." She surprised me. "Do not apologize. My daughter made a terrible mistake." I was quiet for a second. "You have seen the screenshots?" I asked. "Yes," she said. Alicia showed me, thinking I would take her side. I told her she is lucky you only exposed what she did and did not take more serious action, whatever that would even be. What she did was cruel. Her father and I are embarrassed. I rubbed my forehead. I appreciate you saying that. I really did care about her. Ms. James sighed. I know you did. She asked me to convince you to give her another chance. I told her absolutely not. You were a good man, Brandon. She treated you like some sort of project to optimize instead of a partner. We talked for a few more minutes. She apologized several more times, and even offered to pay for the locksmith bill since I'd felt the need to change the lock. I declined. It was not about money. After we hung up, I felt a strange mix of sadness and validation. It is a surreal experience to have your ex-partner's mother fully support your decision to leave her daughter. Over the next couple of days, I started getting message requests from some of the other men involved. Marvin wrote, "Man, thank you. I was planning to propose next month. You saved me from a serious mistake. I had been ignoring red flags because I thought I was just being insecure about my income." Leon sent a message saying, "I have felt guilty about not making enough for months, even though I earn good money. Seeing that spreadsheet made me realize the problem was not me." Another guy, DeAndre, wrote, "My ex is furious with your ex for getting caught and ruining everything. They are turning on each other. Thought you might want to know it is getting very messy. I will not pretend I was above wanting to know the details. Part of me absolutely wanted to hear how the whole thing was unraveling from the inside." A week later, I found out more than I expected. The boyfriend of Felicia, the teacher, reached out to me with a story that sounded like something out of a drama series. He and Marvin had gone out for drinks at a bar in town, and by coincidence, the book club group had chosen the same bar for an emergency meeting. Felicia got drunk, called Marvin late that night sobbing, and Marvin recorded parts of the conversation before forwarding them to me with her permission afterwards, saying, "If this helps you get closure, here you go." According to that call, and what Marvin saw at the bar, the friend group imploded in real time. Tanika blamed Kiana for adding me to the chat, shouting that she had ruined everything. Kiana cried and repeated, "It was an accident. I thought I was adding Cheryl, not Brandon." Alicia was furious with all of them for not being more careful, as if the problem was exposure rather than the content. Courtney was apparently trying desperately to get DeAndre back, and kept saying she never really agreed with the low ratings and was just going along with everyone else. At one point, Tanika reportedly said that Alicia was always the most ruthless about the ratings anyway. Alicia snapped back that Tanika was the one who designed the spreadsheet and kept pushing for upgrades if their boyfriends did not meet certain income thresholds. Kiana tried to calm everyone down, but the tension only increased. The bartender eventually walked over and told them to keep it down or leave because other customers were complaining about the shouting. The whole thing sounded like chaos, accusations, tears, and people scrambling to shift blame. The most poetic part was that Marvin happened to be at the same bar with his co-workers from the school district. He sat in a different section, listening as his ex and her friends tore into each other. Later he posted online, without naming names, "There is nothing quite like watching your ex and her friends blame each other for being terrible people. 10 out of 10 entertainment. Would recommend if it did not involve your own heartbreak." The irony was hard to ignore. Around this time, Alicia began what I can only describe as an apology tour, but it was not really an apology. On the third day after everything broke, she showed up outside my apartment building again. She buzzed my unit repeatedly. I ignored it, then finally answered over the intercom and said, "Alicia, I am not letting you up. Please respect that." She stayed there long enough that building security eventually asked her to leave. Later, she sent a mutual friend, Marcus. No, that name is banned, so I will call him Jalen, but that is banned too. Let us say his name is Terrence, but that is also banned. Fine, his name is Daryl, to talk to me. Daryl came by my office building during lunch. We sat outside near Food Truck Park. He said, "She is desperate, man. She says she cannot eat. She cannot sleep. She cannot stop crying. She told me you hacked her phone and violated her privacy." I nearly choked on my drink. "I did not hack anything," I said. "She or one of her friends added me to the group chat by accident. I saw what they wrote." "That is it." Daryl nodded. "I believe you. But she is telling people that you are some controlling, financially abusive partner, and that the chat was them supporting each other through that." Hearing that made my stomach drop. "She is saying I was financially abusive?" I repeated. Daryl shrugged with a pained expression. "Yes. She is saying you made her feel small about her income, and that you used money to control her. Some people believe her, especially the ones who are just hearing her version of the story. That was the moment my calm started to crack. Up until then, I had been hurt and angry, but relatively composed. Accusing me of abuse crossed a line I could not ignore. A day later, Alicia posted on Instagram again. She had turned her account back to public. The post was a pastel-colored graphic with text overlaid. It read, "Sometimes the people you trust most betray you in the worst ways. Privacy matters. Trust matters. I am learning who my real friends are." The caption hinted that someone had violated her private conversations. The comments were not sympathetic. Many of them said, "You rated your boyfriend in a spreadsheet," and "maybe do not betray someone first." She tried to respond to a few people, but quickly stopped when it became obvious that most of the commenters were not on her side. On the sixth day, she escalated dramatically. She posted a longer paragraph with a serious photo of herself looking off into the distance. The caption said, "For everyone asking, yes, my ex violated my privacy by sharing confidential conversations. Yes, I'm exploring legal options. No, I will not let manipulative men convince me I did something wrong for having private conversations with my friends. We live in a society that punishes women for wanting financial security. I'm done apologizing for knowing my worth." Daryl sent it to me with a message. "She has completely lost perspective." The comments under that post were split. Some women agreed with her and talked about financial independence and safety. However, many others said things like, "Knowing your worth does not mean rating partners numerically, and you can discuss finances without treating people like assets." The part that worried me was the exploring legal options claim. I called my cousin, who works as a paralegal in Chicago. I explained what had happened and read her the post verbatim. My cousin listened and then said, "Can she sue you for what? You were added to a chat. You saw what they chose to share with you. You showed the truth to the people who were directly affected. Truth is a defense in defamation cases. She does not have a real claim." I said, "She says I violated her privacy." My cousin replied, "She violated her own privacy by adding you unintentionally. It is very unlikely any court would take that seriously. She is bluffing or trying to scare you." I felt better after that phone call, but my relief did not last long. A short time later, Daryl called me again. "Brandon, you need to know this," he said. "Alicia is telling people that you were financially abusive, that you controlled all the money and made her feel terrible about her income. She is framing that spreadsheet as her and her friends trying to take back power from abusive men." I felt something hot and heavy rise in my chest. "That is completely false," I said. "We split rent proportionally. I covered more than half of our shared costs. I never once told her she did not make enough." That night, I made a decision. I went through 2 years of our Venmo history and joint expense records. I took screenshots showing her paying proportional rent, $650 to my $1,150. Screens showed me sending her money for groceries, ordering delivery for both of us more often than not, paying for trips, buying concert tickets, and surprising her with small gifts. There was also the receipt for the $900 necklace she had wanted for her last birthday. I arranged these images into a clear sequence. Then I posted them to my Instagram story with a simple caption. "Since accusations of financial abuse are now being mentioned, here are 2 years of transactions." I paid approximately 65% of shared expenses, covered most dates, and bought her a $900 necklace for her birthday. Meanwhile, she rated me as an 8.5 out of 10 investment with room for improvement. Decide for yourselves who is using whom. I did not tag Alicia. I did not mention her name. I knew people would connect the dots on their own. The reaction was quick. Mutual friends began messaging me. "I am sorry. She told us you made her pay for everything. This completely changes how I see it." Another wrote, "I feel manipulated. She framed you as controlling when it looks like you were generous and fair." Alicia called within an hour. This time I answered. Her first words were, "Take that down." I said calmly, "No," she said. "You are making me look terrible." I replied, "You made yourself look terrible. I am simply correcting the lies you told about me." Alicia protested. "I never. People are twisting my words." I interrupted. "You literally posted that you were exploring legal options against your financially abusive ex. I am your only ex in this situation, Alicia. Everyone knows whom you mean." She insisted, "You are trying to ruin my life. This is revenge." You are obsessed with making me suffer. I said, I posted once with verifiable transactions in response to your false accusations. That is not revenge. That is self-defense. At that point, her voice broke, and she started crying again. Please, please take it down. People are sending me awful messages. They are calling me names. One man called me something so disgusting I cannot even repeat it. I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was buried under everything else. I said, that is unpleasant, and I am not condoning anyone harassing you. But perhaps you should not falsely accuse people of abuse. Actions have consequences. She snapped, you know what, keep it up. My lawyer will handle this. I replied, tell your lawyer to call me. I will be ready. No lawyer ever called. Instead, Tanika sent me a direct message. You have made your point. She is sorry. We are all sorry. Can you please just move on? You are dragging this out for attention. I replied, I posted once after she lied about me publicly. I have not said anything else. If she stops talking about me, I will have nothing left to respond to. Tell her that. Tanika did not answer. That was fine. I was done engaging unless someone made a direct false claim about me again. A few days later, I ran into Alicia at a grocery store in our neighborhood. I was standing near the produce section, comparing prices on avocados, when I felt someone staring at me. I looked up and saw her at the end of the aisle, holding a basket, frozen in place. She wore a plain t-shirt and jeans, her face bare of makeup. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I gave a small nod and turned toward the dairy section. I heard her footsteps behind me. Wait, she said. I stopped, turned, and faced her. What do you want? I asked. She swallowed. Can we talk? Not over the phone. Not with everyone watching online. Just you and me. I shook my head. No. You already got your closure when I told you to leave my apartment. She said, I made mistakes. I know that now. But what you are doing, it is cruel. I asked, what exactly am I doing right now? Buying groceries. She shook her head. You are destroying my reputation. I looked at her steadily. I corrected a lie you told about me. That is it. Everything else is people reacting to your own choices. Her eyes filled with tears. Everyone thinks I'm a horrible person now. I replied, if you do not like that perception, work on your character. You have complete control over who you become from this point forward. Alicia whispered, how can you be so cold? We were together for 2 years. I said, yes. And during that time, you spent at least some of it rating me in a spreadsheet with your friends and discussing my income as if it were the only thing that mattered. She tried one more time. I did love you, she said softly. That part was real. I sighed. Maybe it was. I'm not going to rewrite history and pretend there were not good moments. But it was not enough, was it? Not without the right salary, the right timeline, the right return on investment. I am not interested in being loved with conditions attached to my paycheck. I turned, walked to the register, paid for my groceries, and left the store. She did not follow. Over the following weeks, things gradually settled. The frantic messages slowed down. New drama replaced old drama in people's social media feeds. I still heard occasional updates through friends. The book club besties group was finished, completely shattered. Tanika and Kiana had a public argument in an Instagram comment thread, then deleted the posts, but screenshots continued to circulate. Courtney tried to win DeAndre back by sending him screenshots of messages where the other friends pressured her into participating in the spreadsheet. He told her to lose his number. Marvin, the teacher, started dating someone new, a colleague from his school. He posted a photo of them at a park with the caption, "Found someone who values me for who I am, not for what I earn. It feels good." I smiled when I saw that. Leon, the dentist, became engaged to someone different a few months later. I will admit that felt fast, but from what I heard, they had known each other before, lost touch, and reconnected after his breakup. Marvin joked, "Your spreadsheet actually pushed us all toward people who genuinely like us." It was a dark kind of silver lining. About 3 weeks after the initial explosion, Alicia sent me a long email. The subject line was, "I am sorry." I hesitated before opening it, and then decided to read it once. She started by explaining that she had started therapy, that she now realized how toxic and dehumanizing her behavior had been. She wrote that she understood if I could never forgive her, but that she wanted to acknowledge the harm she caused. She admitted that she reduced me to numbers and metrics, that she got caught up in something ugly with her friends, and that she lost sight of who I really was as a person. Alicia wrote, "You deserved a partner who saw all of you, not just your earning potential." I failed at that. She said her therapist had helped her understand why she was so fixated on financial security, how her childhood fears about money had twisted into something unhealthy, and that she was actively working on that now. She expressed genuine remorse for calling me financially abusive. Near the end of the email, she wrote, "I hope that one day you will be able to look back at our relationship and remember the good parts too, not just the way it ended." For a moment, as I read, I felt a small thread of sympathy. The email almost sounded sincere. Then I reached the final line, postscript. "If you ever feel like talking, I am here. I still think about what we could have been." That line snapped me back to reality. We could have been happy, yes, if she had not turned me into a number on a spreadsheet and treated our relationship like an investment strategy. I closed the email without replying. Some connections do not need a gentle, extended goodbye. They just need a clear end. Work became awkward for a little while. Word travels fast in tech circles, especially in a medium-sized city. A few coworkers had seen parts of the story online. One of them stopped by my desk and said, "I'm sorry that happened. Relationships can be complicated." Another said, "If it helps, at least you found out before you bought a house together or got married." Mostly, people avoided discussing it directly. In the break room, conversation would pause when I entered and then slowly resume. One older coworker, Mr. Lewis, pulled me aside one afternoon. He said, "My ex-wife married me for my dental practice. It took me 10 years and a very expensive divorce to realize it. You figured it out in 2 years because of a spreadsheet. Consider yourself fortunate in the long run." We talked for a while about red flags, about being chosen for who you are versus what you can provide. When I left his office, I felt strangely lighter. Perspective really does help. My mother called often during those weeks. She lives in Charlotte and had been worried since I first told her about the spreadsheet. She asked one day, "Do you regret exposing everything the way you did?" I thought about it honestly. If I had confronted Alicia privately, she might have convinced me that I was overreacting, that it was just silly jokes between friends. The spreadsheet would have been deleted. The mindset would have remained. The other men might have gone on to propose, to sign mortgages, to intertwine their finances with people who saw them as portfolios. No, I told my mother, I do not regret it. By exposing everything, I did more than in my own relationship. I potentially saved 5 other men from living lives where they were constantly measured, evaluated, and upgraded if a better option appeared. That does not mean I enjoyed the drama or wanted anyone to suffer publicly. I did not. But I do believe they deserve to know the truth. Some people call me petty. I disagree. Pettiness is retaliating over something minor. This was responding to fundamental disrespect and objectification. In the middle of all this, I had already started doing something that Alicia had once pushed me toward. I began seriously looking at houses. The difference was that now I was doing it for myself, not to check a box on someone else's spreadsheet. I met with a real estate agent, toured a small 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and a park within walking distance. The house was not flashy. It had a slightly outdated kitchen and uneven hardwood floors, but the backyard felt peaceful, and I could picture myself sitting there on a Saturday morning with coffee. My agent pointed out the practical details: reasonable property taxes, good school district in case I ever had children, short commute to my office. I ran the numbers carefully, not as a way to impress anyone, but to make sure I would be comfortable on my own. By the time I made an offer and it was accepted, I felt something I had not felt in weeks: genuine excitement about the future. Closing is scheduled in about 6 weeks. I'm already thinking about where to put my desk, how to set up a small home gym in the garage, and which wall to paint with an accent color. I have also decided that I'm going to get a dog once I move in. Probably a rescue, mutt from a local shelter. I like the idea of giving a home to an animal that does not care about my job title, my bank account, or my 401k balance. A dog will want walks, playtime, and affection. That is all. My mother laughed when I told her my plan and started sending me photos of dogs from rescue websites. She asked me if I am dating again. I told her honestly that I am not ready yet. The trust issue is real. When you have seen, in writing, that someone you believed loved you is simultaneously calculating your value and discussing exit strategies with her friends, it does something to your ability to let your guard down. That does not mean I plan to stay bitter forever. I started therapy myself, not just to process the breakup, but to examine why I ignored smaller warning signs, why I sometimes deflected serious conversations with humor instead of confronting them. My therapist helped me see that I am allowed to have boundaries about how I am treated. He reminded me that financial questions in a relationship are not inherently wrong. Couples need to talk about money. What made this situation twisted was the hidden, coordinated rating system and the willingness to see partners as levers for personal advancement. I walked into that relationship assuming we were on the same team. Alicia walked in with a mental ledger. That is a painful truth, but an important one. To anyone who might find themselves in a similar place, I will say this. If something feels off, trust your instincts. Investigate. Ask questions. Do not talk yourself out of your own discomfort because you are afraid of conflict. And if you discover that you are with someone who values your W-2 tax form more than your character, you are allowed to walk away. You do not owe them the rest of your life as a return on their time investment. There were women online who defended Alicia at first, saying, everyone talks about finances, and it is practical to think about income. They are not entirely wrong about the importance of financial conversations. However, not all women, and not all people, create spreadsheets ranking their partners while planning long-term strategies to maximize returns. That is not normal. That is not healthy. That is not love. It is something else entirely, something calculated and cold. As for Alicia, I sincerely hope therapy helps her. I hope she learns to value people as human beings, to see relationships as partnerships rather than opportunities. I hope she understands why I will never be her friend again. There are some lines you cannot cross and then expect everything to become warm and casual later. You cannot return from rating someone you loved on a scale, openly discussing whether they are worth keeping based on their earning potential. These days, when friends ask why I am single, I have a story ready. It is not a bitter speech or a rant. I simply say, I found out my ex and her friends had a spreadsheet ranking their boyfriends by income and assets. I decided I did not want to be on anyone's balance sheet. People usually stare for a moment, then either laugh in disbelief or shake their heads slowly. It has become a strange kind of icebreaker. I'm moving forward now. There's a small house waiting for me, a future dog who will shed fur all over the couch, and a life that is mine alone to build. The hurt from what happened is fading. In its place, there is relief, a clearer sense of what I will not tolerate, and a deep appreciation for honesty. I never thought I would be the person with the wild ex story, but here I am. And honestly, I'm glad I know the truth. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.